Clara had always thought that luxury was a world she could only observe from the outside. She was content with their simple life, with the quiet moments at home, and the comfort of being with Adam. But tonight, as they stepped into the grand lobby of the five-star hotel, she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong here. The hotel was everything she had imagined and more. The towering marble columns, the soft glow of the crystal chandeliers, the rich, plush carpeting beneath her feet. It was the epitome of opulence. Yet, as she followed Adam through the elegant space, Clara couldn't help but feel a growing sense of discomfort. It wasn't the hotel that made her feel this way. It was the stares, the subtle glances from the staff and the guests. They were sizing her up. Clara had worn a simple dress, nothing too extravagant. It was elegant but understated, just the way she preferred it. But as she glanced around, she saw women in designer gowns, men in sharp tuxedos, all dressed to perfection. And then there was her, just Clara, simple and unassuming, standing next to her husband, Adam. Adam had insisted on this trip, saying it would be good for them to get away, to take some time for themselves. The hotel had been recommended by some of his high-profile business associates, a place where the elite gathered to relax and enjoy the finest things in life. Adam had never given much thought to how Clara might feel in such a setting, and why would he? He moved through the world with a quiet confidence that demanded respect. But Clara, she had never been one to feel at ease in places like this. As they approached the front desk, the receptionist, a young woman with a smile too perfect to be genuine, greeted them. But Clara could already see the subtle shift in the receptionist's eyes when she saw her. The glance was brief, but it was enough. Clara felt it in the pit of her stomach. She was being judged. "Good evening," the receptionist said, her tone polite but distant. "How may I assist you?" Adam stepped forward with his usual composure, his presence commanding attention without ever raising his voice. "We have a reservation under Adam Thompson." The receptionist's fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment, her smile faltering just slightly as she searched the system. "I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Thompson, but it seems we have a problem," she said, her voice smooth, but edged with something Clara couldn't place. "There's no reservation under your name." Clara's heart sank. She had expected this to be a smooth process, an effortless check-in, but now, standing there with Adam, she couldn't help but feel like something wasn't right. "I'm sure there's been a mistake," Adam said calmly, his voice never betraying any frustration. "We made the reservation weeks ago. Please double-check." The receptionist paused, her fingers clicking away at the keyboard, but the same polite smile remained in place. "I've double-checked, Mr. Thompson. I'm afraid we don't have any rooms available at this time. Perhaps you could try again tomorrow?" Clara's stomach tightened. She had heard the subtle undertones in the receptionist's voice. She didn't belong here, and she could feel it in every word. Clara stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. The receptionist's refusal hung in the air, suffocating the space around them. It wasn't just the rejection. It was the way the words had been spoken, as if Clara wasn't even worthy of being considered for a room in a place like this. She could feel her cheeks flush, her throat tightening, her fingers curled into fists at her sides, though she didn't dare show any of the emotions swirling within her. Adam, ever the picture of composure, didn't seem fazed. His eyes remained fixed on the receptionist, his posture relaxed yet commanding. Clara had always admired his ability to remain calm, to exude an authority that made everyone around him sit up and take notice. But today, she couldn't help but feel like an outsider, like she didn't fit into the world Adam so effortlessly navigated. Adam's voice broke the tense silence. "Is there a mistake, or is this some kind of policy?" he asked, his words quiet but carrying a weight that demanded respect. The receptionist hesitated, her fingers hovering above the keyboard again. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson. It seems there's no reservation in the system. I can certainly look into other options for you, but the hotel is fully booked for the night." Clara's pulse quickened. She had never been in a situation like this before. She had always relied on Adam to smooth things over, to handle the business and the chaos that came with his world. But now, In this moment, the reality of the world she didn't belong to was staring her in the face. Adam's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He could sense Clara's unease, the tension in her body as she stood beside him. She was trying to hold it together, but he could see the cracks beginning to form. "Is there someone else I can speak to?" Adam asked, his voice barely rising above a whisper but carrying the unmistakable authority of someone used to getting results. The receptionist glanced up at him, clearly taken aback by the force in his voice. "I can get the manager for you, Mr. Thompson. One moment, please." Adam gave a brief nod, his gaze never leaving the receptionist as she scurried away. He turned to Clara, his expression softening just a fraction. "It's going to be fine," he said quietly. "Don't let this get to you." Clara tried to smile, but the weight of the moment pressed down on her. "It's not about the room, Adam," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "It's about the way they looked at me. Like I didn't belong here, like I wasn't good enough." Adam's eyes softened, and for the first time that evening Clara saw a flicker of vulnerability in him. He reached out and gently took her hand. "You are good enough, Clara," he said, his voice firm, but there was a tenderness to it that made Clara's heart flutter. "You've always been good enough. They just don't see it yet." Clara met his gaze, his words like a balm to her bruised confidence. For a moment, she allowed herself to lean into him, letting the warmth of his support fill her. This world, as intimidating and overwhelming as it wasn't so scary with Adam by her side. And maybe, just maybe, she could begin to see herself the way he saw her, someone who belonged no matter the setting. The manager approached then, a middle-aged man with a brisk walk and a courteous smile, clearly trying to diffuse the tension. But Clara had already begun to feel something shift within her. Adam had made it clear that she had every right to be here, and maybe, for the first time, she was beginning to believe it. The manager's arrival was almost anticlimactic. Clara had expected something more dramatic, an apology, perhaps, or a swift resolution. But instead, the manager, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and a clipboard tucked neatly under his arm, approached them with an air of practiced professionalism. His polite smile, however, couldn't mask the subtle tension in his demeanor. "Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, I do apologize for the confusion," the manager said, his tone a perfect blend of cordiality and obligation. "We have experienced some issues with our booking system, and it seems your reservation was misplaced. However, I'll make sure to rectify this immediately." Adam didn't flinch. His expression remained unchanged, but Clara could sense the quiet storm beneath the surface. He was never one for unnecessary confrontation, but when it came to Clara, something inside him stirred. He would never let anyone make her feel less than she was. "I appreciate your honesty," Adam replied, his voice calm but firm. "But I believe a mistake like this shouldn't have happened. This is a 5-star hotel, and a guest should never be made to feel unwelcome. What steps are you going to take to make this right?" The manager cleared his throat, clearly taken aback by Adam's directness. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. We will ensure that you are properly accommodated. I'll personally escort you to a suite and make sure everything meets your expectations. We'll also waive the cost of tonight's stay as an apology for the inconvenience." Clara stood quietly, her eyes flickering between Adam and the manager. She couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. Adam's cool demeanor had turned the tables once again, but it wasn't just his influence that had shifted things. It was the way the manager was suddenly treating them, no longer as a regular guest and a companion, but as someone who had earned respect, someone who belonged in this world. Still, Clara couldn't shake the sting of what had happened. The brief but sharp dismissal at the desk, the subtle glances from the staff, it all weighed on her, making her feel like an outsider in a world where everyone else seemed to glide effortlessly through it. Adam noticed her distant expression and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Clara," he said quietly, "you don't need to apologize for anything. Not now, not ever." Clara turned to look at him, her chest tightening with a mixture of gratitude and guilt. "I'm not apologizing. I just feel like I don't belong here, Adam." Adam's eyes softened, his voice dropping lower as he spoke. You belong here because you're you, Clara, not because of me, not because of the hotel or the people in it. You belong because you bring something to this world that no one else does. Never forget that. Her heart fluttered at his words. Clara had always known that Adam saw her differently from the way others did, but hearing it now, spoken so earnestly, something inside her shifted. It wasn't about being accepted by others or fitting into a world that seemed so foreign to her. It was about accepting herself, about owning her place in the world, no matter where she was. As the manager led them down the hall toward their suite, Clara walked with a new sense of purpose. Adam had always been her protector, but now she realized that she had to start protecting herself too, starting with the way she saw herself. They arrived at the suite, and as the door opened, Clara stepped inside, feeling the calm yet luxurious space embrace her. The world outside was full of challenges, but inside this room she knew one thing for certain. She was not just Adam's wife. She was Clara Thompson, and that was enough. The suite was as grand as Clara had imagined, but she couldn't help but feel a sense of disconnection. The velvet curtains, the marble floors, the elegant furnishings. All of it was beautiful, but it felt hollow. She stood by the window, staring out at the city lights, feeling more alone than she had in a long time. The events of the day had unsettled her, and despite Adam's comforting words, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was still on the outside looking in. Adam had arranged everything to perfection, but Clara felt like a stranger in this world of luxury. She had always preferred simplicity, the quiet moments at home, the joy of shared, understated experiences. This world of extravagant wealth and polished surfaces made her feel exposed, as though she didn't belong here. The rejection at the front desk had triggered something inside her, something she hadn't fully acknowledged before. It wasn't just the hotel. It was the constant reminder that she wasn't like the others in this elite world. Clara, Adam's voice broke through her thoughts. She turned to find him standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. His dark suit, impeccable as always, contrasted sharply with the softness of his eyes. He was always calm, always composed, but tonight there was a flicker of concern in his gaze that Clara couldn't ignore. "I'm fine," she said quickly, trying to dismiss the thoughts swirling in her mind. But she knew it was more than that. She wasn't fine. She was out of place, unsure of how to navigate a world she hadn't chosen, a world where everything seemed to be based on appearances. Adam closed the distance between them, his presence filling the space with a quiet strength. "You don't have to pretend with me, Clara. I can see it. This isn't you." Clara looked at him, her chest tight with emotions she couldn't fully express. "I don't fit in this world, Adam," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't belong here." Adam's eyes softened, and he reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "Clara, you do belong, not because of this world, but because of who you are. You're not defined by the hotel, by the people who stare, or by the fancy dresses. You belong because you're you." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that seemed to lift the invisible burden she had been carrying. Clara had always been the quiet one, content to stay in the background while Adam moved through the world with such ease. But tonight, as she stood here with him, she realized something that made her breath catch in her chest. Adam didn't need her to be a reflection of his world. He needed her to be herself. "But they look at me like I don't belong," Clara said, her voice trembling slightly, "like I'm not enough." Adam's expression softened, and he cupped her face gently in his hands, his thumbs brushing across her skin. "You're more than enough, Clara. The world will never define you unless you let it. You don't need anyone's approval, especially not from people who don't matter. You belong because of your strength, your heart, and your kindness. No amount of wealth or status can take that away." Clara closed her eyes, feeling the truth of his words settle deep inside her. She wasn't just Adam's wife. She wasn't defined by her relationship to him or by the world he inhabited. She was Clara Thompson, a woman with her own worth, her own power, When she opened her eyes, Adam was still watching her, his gaze steady, unwavering, and in that moment Clara knew that this wasn't just about the hotel or the rejection. This was about finding her place in the world, standing tall, and owning who she was. Adam smiled, his fingers gently brushing against her cheek. "Are you ready to go down there, Clara? To show them who you really are?" Clara smiled back, a new sense of resolve building within her. "I'm ready." The gala was already in full swing when Clara and Adam made their entrance. The luxurious ballroom was adorned with glittering chandeliers and ornate decorations, casting a warm glow over the sea of guests in elegant attire. The murmurs of conversation and the clinking of glasses filled the air. But for Clara, everything felt different this time. The crowd that had once made her feel like an outsider no longer seemed as intimidating. As they entered, Clara could feel the shift. There was no longer that subtle judgment in the eyes of the guests. The whispers had quieted, replaced by polite nods of acknowledgement. Adam had always moved through these circles with ease, but now, Clara realized, she was moving through them too, not as a shadow beside her husband, but as a woman standing beside him, equal and unwavering. Adam greeted a few familiar faces, nodding politely as Clara followed his lead, but this time she didn't feel out of place. She wasn't pretending to be someone she wasn't. She wasn't shrinking into the background. She was here, just as much a part of this world as anyone else in the room. The quiet confidence Adam had always radiated was now a part of her, something she could feel building with every step she took. "Clara," Adam said softly as he turned to her, his hand resting lightly on her back. "You look stunning." Clara smiled, the compliment settling deep inside her. She wasn't used to compliments that weren't tied to the way she looked beside Adam. But this one felt different. This was about her. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to apologize for anything. She didn't have to apologize for the simple dress she had chosen, for the lack of diamonds or the understated elegance that set her apart from the others. She didn't need any of those things to feel worthy. The night progressed, and Clara found herself in conversations she never would have dreamed of joining before. She spoke with one of the auction house's leading curators about the latest trends in contemporary art, laughing easily with a couple known for their philanthropic work. And with each conversation, Clara's confidence grew. She was no longer just the wife of a billionaire businessman. She was Clara Thompson, strong, intelligent, and capable of holding her own in any room. But it wasn't just the conversations that mattered. It was the quiet moments in between, the brief looks Adam gave her, the small smile that never left his face, the way his hand lingered on her back as they navigated through the crowd. He was proud of her, and for the first time, Clara felt proud of herself. She didn't need to be defined by the world around her. She could shape it on her own terms. As the night wore on, Clara realized that she had never been more herself than she was right then. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't shrinking. She was standing tall, confident in her own skin, fully aware that she belonged in this world, just as much as anyone else. When the evening ended, Adam turned to her with that familiar, gentle smile. "I told you you'd fit right in," he said softly, his hand brushing hers. Clara smiled back, her heart full. "I think I always belonged here." Adam's eyes softened, and he took a step closer, reaching for her hand. "I always believed in you, Clara. It's been you all along." For a moment, they stood there in silence, the weight of the words hanging between them. Clara had always known that Adam loved her, that he supported her unconditionally, but now she realized that his love wasn't just about lifting her up. It was about allowing her the space to rise on her own. "Where to next?" Clara asked, her voice full of newfound determination. The world was wide, and she was ready to embrace it, on her own terms. Adam smiled, the pride in his eyes reflecting back at her. "Wherever you want to go, Clara, you've got the world at your feet." Clara's heart swelled with a sense of purpose. She wasn't just standing in the shadow of someone else's world anymore. She was making her own path, taking steps toward a future where she could be unapologetically herself. With Adam by her side, she knew there was nothing she couldn't achieve. As they left the suite and headed toward the elevator, Clara felt a new sense of excitement building within her. This was just the beginning. The world was hers to explore, and this time she was ready to take it on, with no apologies, no fear, and a heart full of confidence.